fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind.
It was basically a cube with inside of a sphere where the points of the cube were touching the outside of the sphere.
Roger. There's troubleshooting as soon as I get.
So this isn't anything that just is limited to the United States. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to That UFO podcast. My name is Andy, and a few weeks ago I reached out to journalist Tim McMillan after he released a piece for The Debrief, which he discussed the potential of Project Titan and some of the outcomes from the San Marino conference, and we heard a lot about that, a lot of exciting announcements as well. And in speaking to Tim said to me, there's one man you want to speak to, and that man is joining me on the podcast today. He is a member of the Centro Ufologico Nazionale. He works for the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and is the Italian national representative of ICER, that is the International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research. And he is also one of the founders of that organisation. I'd like to welcome Paulo Guizzardi to the podcast. Paulo, how are we today?
Thank you, Andy. Very, very fine, and really glad to be with you tonight.
No, it's good to have you on, and I hope I've done the surname justice with my pronunciation there. So
yes.
I gave it my best shot. Paulo, you are someone who, for many of the listeners, your name has come up quite recently in terms of UFOs, and you're obviously looking to make somewhat of an impact with the various organisations and projects on the table. Can you give the listeners a little bit about you and your background and what's put you on the path to the topic of UFOs on the international stage?
Well, Andy, I have to say that, first of all, I want to say one thing which is important, because I never cited one UFO, not even one, not even half UFO, so to speak. But in any case, I have always had a great interest for this subject. I mean, UFOs as a mystery in itself, and for the possibility of extraterrestrial life. But not only this, because since when I can remember, I always had the, how can I say, the feeling, the concrete feeling that not only there must be someone else in the universe, but that the universe, I mean, whatever surrounds us, in whatever surrounds us, there is a lot more than what it seems. So, and this always fascinated me. I really, feel excited to live surrounded by this enormous mystery. I mean, I understand that this is something that can be, how can I say that? I mean, that not everyone likes this, because most of the persons prefer to stay on their own safe corner, so to speak. While I'm really happy and glad to delve into the mystery, whatever. Not only UFOs, not only ET life, but also things like shamanism, or what is generally called parapsychology, or things like the so-called reincarnation, or the near-death experiences, or OBE, out-of-body experiences. I mean, all these things are very, very, very much interesting for me, even though the UFO and ET subjects are, the two that are most interesting for me at all. So, I mean, I never saw a UFO myself. I didn't fall from my horse when I was riding to Damascus, so to speak. So, I mean, I never had an epiphany of sort, if you will, but I always had this innate feeling that there must be a lot more, and that I want to discover it. So this is my background. So if this answers properly to your question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it sounds like you've got a wonderful open mind to a range of subjects. And you mentioned there parapsychology, which leads into the paranormal, reincarnation, shamanism. Do you think all of these different areas, including UFOs and extraterrestrials or whatever these entities or beings may be, do you think they all have some sort of link potentially to each other?
Indeed, indeed. And the more I grow in my knowledge, and the more I see that, how can I say? It's a bit difficult to say, but to say that simply, everything is connected. To put it very simply, everything is one, if you will, and everything is connected. So the more I grow in my personal knowledge, and the more I feel that this is really how it is.
Now, it sounds like, as you say, growing up, you've always had a feeling or you've been pulled towards the idea of there being something more. Was there any particular event or moment, was it a meeting or a conversation with someone, even in your professional life, that really decided for you that there was something out there? And obviously you've met some very interesting individuals, I'm sure, recently.
For sure, for sure. No, no, and really, I cannot say there was a very definite moment. Well, one which was important was when it was in 1969 when I was rather young. I was born in '56, so I was 13 years old when, with my father, went to the movie to see 2001: A Space Odyssey, and that really was something that still today remains very vivid in my mind. And that was how can I say, something that really oriented me towards the all those thematics like space exploration, the possibility of life elsewhere. But I mean, it was not specifically that, because as I told you, I always had this very how can I say, pervasive, I don't know if the pronunciation is correct, feeling that there indeed there must be much more in the universe.
Now, you mentioned you were born in 1956 in Bologna, I believe,
Exactly. You're right.
famous
Right.
for its football team with a beautiful strip. Now, what is the view of UFOs or ETs in Italian culture? Is it the same as here in the UK, where there's a massive stigma?
Well, speaking in general, of course, also in Italy, stigma has been the rule in mainstream areas. Of course, mainstream journalism, mainstream media, mainstream science. But the feeling of how can I say, of the people, if I can use this term, was not so far away. I mean, was quite supportive of this idea of ETs existing in the universe and maybe existing here. Maybe because Italians, being Catholic, has always been very familiar with other entities. You call them angels or saints. I mean, non-physical entities. Maybe this is the reason. So, but recently, I have to say that this situation is changing, is evolving for the better. Of course, after the start of the disclosure process, which happened in December 2017, a lot of things have already changed, and also in Italy, it is already possible to see that things are changing. I mean, for instance, Roberto Pinotti, the president of the Centro Ufologico Nazionale and of ICER as well, he has always been invited. No, he has frequently, not always, frequently been invited to TV shows and similar. But until a few years ago, sorry, it was really the general tenure of the transmission was really low. I mean, uh, the other persons who were invited at this transmission were really very unqualified people who, in most of the cases, just laughed at this possibility of UFOs and ETs and so on. While in recent months, it's a matter of months or one or 2 years, not more, I have seen a definite change and progressive and definite change in the attitude of these show, because Roberto, he continues to go to participate into these shows, but it is possible to see that the subject of UFOs and maybe also ETs is being treated more and more seriously. And this in general, not only this does not only happen in the shows where Roberto participate, of course, but I'm speaking in general. They are, just to give you an idea. I mean, the Italia Uno is a private network of the Berlusconi own network, so to speak. This channel, Italia Uno, is broadcasting right now, these days, in first, I don't know the English term for that, but I mean, at 8:30, which is the 20 hours 30, which is the hour where there's more
Prime time.
public.
Prime
Yeah,
time, yeah.
yes, prime time. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got now I got it. And this Mister is called Mystery Land. This transmission is broadcast in prime time, which is really something, because until now these kind of transmission, those very rare kind of transmission that were broadcast at 23 hours, or I mean, not prime time at all. While and they are doing this, they are showing, broadcasting this transmission, Mystery Land, in prime time. Kudos to them, I have to say.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, because over in the UK we don't have that. It's still very much laughed at. The language in the media is little green men, flying saucers. Something that's come up even recently in, if I want to say, the more serious articles that have appeared in the press in the UK, they still use derogatory terms like alien hunter, and it's talking down about the subject. So it's nice to hear other
Hmm.
European countries, certain big countries as well, like Italy, are changing the tone and the context of the conversation.
And by the way, Andy, maybe I'm saying nothing actually new. Even the Pope, even Pope Francis, one day, I think you know that, in a public audience, he said, "But one day, if Martians came to me and he said, yes, Martians, those little green men with antennas and so on, like kid paint them, huh? Those, if one of these would come here and asking me, would you baptize me? I would say yes, of course. So I mean, this is something that really means something. It really means that, I mean, the notion of ETs is indeed slowly making its way in the minds of the people.
And that's really important as well, that the Vatican do embrace that conversation, and that is
Hmm.
a definite tone change from themselves over the years. And I suppose they don't have an observatory for no reason, because they're looking at something out in space. So that's always been an interesting one. I would love, Paolo, could you tell us some of the famous events or UFO events in Italian lore? What would potentially be the Italian Roswell?
The potential Roswell is rather easily said. That happened in 1933. And what is interesting is really interesting, not just because it predates Roswell of 14 years, but what is really interesting is that in 1933 in Italy, we already see all the main ingredients at work, the main ingredients that we came to know very well with Roswell and other cases. We have, first of all, the immediate secrecy, first. Then we have the cover up and deception immediately after. Then we have the scientific high level study. So in Italy in 1933, June 1933, we see these ingredients already at work, perfectly as it happened in the United States of 1947. And this is important because, I mean, just to quickly, just for a quick recap of the situation, in
Yeah, please.
1933, in northern Italy, a mysterious aircraft of unknown origin landed or crashed. This is not known for sure. In any case, we say landed in northern Italy, not far from Milano and the Lake of Como, more or less. So they say that this mysterious aircraft, and by the way, I say mysterious, and if it was, if they called it mysterious, it must have been really mysterious because, I mean, aviation in Italy in 1933, Italy under Mussolini, was kept in very high regard, and it was one of the key sectors of the Italian army in general. So, I mean, if they say that it was unknown, it really means that it was something unidentifiable. Okay, so what is interesting is that nowadays we have the copies of various telegrams which were sent by the press agency, the only press agency of the regime, which was called Stefani Agency, and there are at least four of these messages which were broadcast to all the offices with the highest priority, and they were not top secret, but riservatissimo is confidential. Were classified as confidential, and today we have the copy. I mean, we have the originals because most of these are owned by Roberto Pinotti himself. We have the originals of these telegrams, and so you can imagine that. I mean, just by the sheer number of telegrams that were sent in one day, I mean, four telegraphs of the highest priority and high classification that were sent in that day. So you can understand just from this fact that the matter was considered very, very seriously. So then what happened? It looked like these debris or this what remained of this unknown aircraft was conserved in a hangar owned by the CI Marchetti, which was aircraft I think it was the main aircraft producer of that time, where they were kept for study, and it is said that Mussolini assembled a sort of Majestic 12, so to speak, which was called RS 33, RS like Romeo Sierra 33, which stand for Special Research. 33 is the year of foundation, which was headed by Guglielmo Marconi, by the way. And they tried to, and it is said that they tried to investigate, of course, trying to understand what this device was and so on. And then what happened? Then came the war. At the end of the war, what remained of this unknown aircraft was confiscated by the Americans and was sent to the US. What one thing which is interesting is that in 2010, at the 2010 Congress of San Marino, we had an intervention by a gentleman by the name of William Brophy, who said that his father was an officer in the U.S. Air Force. In 1948, if I remember well, he had the possibility to see the corpse kept under formalin of two aliens of the Nordic kind, so to speak, high, quite tall, pale, white hair, and so on. Classic, the classic kind of Nordic aliens, as we call them. And he said that his father told him that these two bodies were confiscated in Italy at the end of the war. So this is something that was not known. And there, of course, there are many rumors, many uncontrolled voices concerning this subject. One is that Mussolini, when he came to know and very likely could have seen these two bodies, could have been led to think that they could have been German, and so he could have thought that if the Germans have this kind of weapons, of course, we can ally. Italy can ally with Germany, and of course, we will war. We will win the war very easily. So, but of course, this is something which, I mean, they're just rumors. So take them at face value. I mean, don't it's not possible to do any historic check. Also, concerning the Italian Majestic 12, this RS-33 cabinet, there are traces in these documents that have been sent anonymously to Roberto Pinotti, and not only to Roberto Pinotti, but also to a couple of other review, not reviews, how can I say, papers,
Sure.
newspapers. And there are, I mean, in these papers, which are papers of the Senate of the Republic. I mean, there is the emblem of the Senate of the Republic, and there is mention of this very secret RS-33 cabinet, which was meant to have top priority over everything. Not even the University of the Vatican should have been informed about their findings. So this is for sure. The we could call it the Italian Roswell, if you wish. And it is interesting because we see that, I mean, we know Roswell, we know more or less how it worked, we know the mechanism after this event. I mean, the mechanism that this event triggered. But it is interesting to see that exactly the same thing happened in the fascist Italy of 1933. You see. So this is something that it is important. And it is important, Andy, not only for this, but also because, especially for the youngest generations, or those who have just started to taking some interest in this subject of UFOs slash ETs, I would like to dispel the notion that UFOs and maybe ETs is something new. No, no, it's not new at all, because at least in 1933 started. And if we really want to go, how can I say, in the past, we can see a lot of traces of what we could call today UFO events. Like the Romans even had a specific name for these UFOs. They called them clipeus ardentes, which means fiery shields. So because they also saw sometimes these shields, most of the time they were glowing, and so they created this name. So I mean, the again, what I want to stress is that the phenomenon is not new at all. It's being taken. What is new is that it's being taken seriously, and that is new, actually, really. But the phenomenon itself is not new at all.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Paolo. That was a very excellent retelling of that story and the most comprehensive I've heard as well. And it probably does it a disservice to call it the Italian Roswell, given it predates Roswell itself. So,
Mhm.
can I just ask though, is there any reason you think for the secrecy of the time? And obviously, famously with Roswell, the US military announced they had captured a flying saucer and very quickly changed the press release to say it was nothing more than a weather balloon and misidentification. Why didn't the
But
government at the time just come out and announce what they had?
But Wendy, I think it's very simple after all. I mean, consider when the Romans saw these clipeus ardentes, these fiery shields flying, zipping across the skies, what could they think? Maybe something connected to the gods, maybe. And if it happened in 90, say in the 12th century, they could have been angels or demons, most likely demons. So, but if that happened in a civilization, I mean, where man already knew how to fly, so things change. They do change indeed, because in 1933 man already knew very well how to fly. Of course, not with the devices we have today, but they knew how to fly. So they knew how to build machine, they knew how to build a machine that could fly properly, and so on. So it was immediately recognized the military technological value of these unknown, unidentifiable, but definitely technological devices. So no wonder that immediately the secret was imposed over the matter, because of course there was a great, and there is still today a great interest to try to replicate this devices, this craft, with these showing these incredible performances. And the story in 1933 is like it was in 1947, like it was in recent times. It's always the same story. There is a specific interest by the military to try to replicate these devices, because whoever could be able to do this would have found the holy grail of the military power, military air power. So, I mean, it's very simple for me.
What sort of interest has persisted within the military and Italian government to do with this subject then? Because if what you've said in 1933 happened and the Italian military and government recover this incredible craft that they're unsure where it's came from, you would think that interest would remain with the government and the military in Italy to this day. What sort of
Yes.
interest remains?
Yes, indeed. I think that this is a general norm which applies to any military environment which find itself confronted with a crashed UFO. I think that whoever today, now that we know that it's possible to build devices that can fly, now not only for the Italian military, not only for the US military, but for any military organization in this world, military slash military intelligence organization in this world, each one of these will have a definite and great interest in this kind of device. And of course, this kind of device, this kind of interest entails the secrecy, because of course, each military establishment would like, of course, to be the first to create, replicate some a device at least capable of some of these incredible performances, of course, for the final purpose of military air power, so military air supremacy.
I don't know if you've seen Unidentified, the series that we had Tom DeLonge, Luis Elizondo, and I'm sure you're aware that a
Yes,
couple of years ago they met with some Italian colleagues. I'm sure some of them may be of yours,
yes,
and they discussed several different exchanges of information. One incident in particular, they talked about potentially being able to use a frequency to let some of
yes,
these
yes.
objects know that they know they are here and they
Hmm.
can almost communicate in some sort of way. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I know, I'm well aware of that because I was present at that meeting. And one of the most interesting cases that we talked in that meeting was what happened in the remote locality of Canneto di Caronia. It's
Mhm.
called Canneto di Caronia, three words, which is a very small village in on the northeastern coast of Sicily, very close to the sea. And it's difficult to make a resume on this because it was really something that went on for a long time, went on for many months at and with intervals. So it was really something definitely strange. It started with fires, fires in normal houses. But what was strange was that this fire developed poof in quickly, and what was burning was not something that you could expect. You could expect burning something which is electrical. The electrical cabinet or the fridge, maybe because the motor has a short circuit or things like that. But there were beds, there were pieces of furnitures, chairs, um, boots, even boots. It was really something strange, definitely. So the situation got at a point where the inhabitants of that area had to be evacuated for some, I think, some weeks at least. And there were many strange episodes that happened, UFO sightings. Also, there was this event where an helicopter was apparently hit by something which supposedly could have been a directed energy weapon or sort. Because there was this helicopter which was not a civil helicopter of the civil. It's called protezione civile. It means civil protection,
Mhm.
which is a civil body. And this helicopter was flying over the area, and it was a shuttle flight, nothing special. All of a sudden, the helicopter was shaken like sort of an explosion. It was really abrupt, and and it became difficult to handle it, to govern it properly. But nonetheless, the pilot managed, in any case, he managed to do a safe landing. And when they landed, they really remained surprised because they went to check the rotor blades over, and they found a hole like this in the back, of one rotor. I mean, and what is interesting is that there was a gentleman on the ground at the moment of this event. He had a camera with him, so he noticed that at a certain point this helicopter was behaving erratically. I mean, was not flying properly, as if it had a problem, a damage. So it took some pictures, and later, when he examined, he saw, he took a look at these pictures. He saw that, I mean, here was the helicopter, and here there was a white globe, not that far. I mean, maybe 1 kilometer, not more. There was this how can I say, globe. Well, it was not a globe. I mean, the definition of the image was not so elevated, so it was not easy to discern anything. Just a white, but definitely a white spot. I mean, it was. So what to say? It's not clear how a blow like this, capable of doing this kind of hole in a blade, could have happened, because there were no shots. I mean, no round of ammunitions that were shot. uh, there was nothing, and it was also the way that, I mean, it was not a perforation, so to speak. It was not a perforation hole. Was more of, like when happened these vapor explosion,
Mm-hmm.
like when a truck when a tree is struck by a lightning, the the water explodes. So, and it was something which appeared like that. Appeared, I cannot say that it was. I mean, it appeared like an explosion of vapor, so to speak. Of course, you could very well say that a tree is one thing, and a rotor blade is another, and does not have any any water inside. So how is it? Difficult to say. In any case, what happened? A a scientific study committee, which was assembled to try to understand something on these phenomena that happened. They did extensive studies. I mean, not just in different location by different teams and so on. So what they ascertained was not that much, but was very interesting, because, by the way, the final conclusions of these studies was never made public. By the way, yeah? I don't know why, but it was never made public. In any case, it was known that they ascertained that these fires were very likely provocated by the emission of very high energy microwave radiation at very high frequencies. So it's like the principle of the radar: short pulses emitted, and these pulses were very short but very high power, and at frequencies very high, many gigahertz, so to speak. And they had been able to triangulate, to identify the source of emission of these radiated power, and they found it was around 60 or 70 kilometers north of the area. And that's fine, but 70 kilometers from the area, that's just sea.
Yeah.
So, what to say? what to say. According to a gentleman who participated into this meeting, which was broadcast in the unidentified, no, right? It was unidentified.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So according to one of the gentlemen who was involved in the studies, apparently they found that it was a sort of controlled emission. I mean, it was not, of course, it was not natural. It was a controlled emission. And they say that they had been able to somehow uh, understand how it worked. But that was not, I mean, the real cause was still remains a mystery. In any case, for sure, there were many UFO sightings in the area. Also, not only these events of strange and sudden fires, but also there were, for quite a long time, mysterious events which we could call, we would term them UFO sightings, more or less.
It was a very interesting conversation that it was had on Unidentified, and I believe the same colleagues who had that discussion, they mentioned that the objects were in a stealth mode, I believe was the language,
Hmm.
and that they had to come out of any stealth mode to fire or use any potential weaponry. How
Yes.
was that assertion made? How did they reach that conclusion? Are you aware?
No, no, no. No, this is why I didn't. I do not want to expand too much because I really do not know. So I prefer. I mean, when there's something I do not know, I prefer not to say anything unless I have a possible explanation for myself. In this case, I really don't know anything more.
No, that's fine. What I would ask, Paolo, one more thing on that. In speaking to your colleagues, while we never found out the public report wasn't released in terms of the classified information, was there a leaning that this was potentially extraterrestrial in origin, or were they leaning towards a more man made explanation potentially?
Well, it was said. It was said. I tend to stress it was said because I really did not have the possibility to see it, to read it. It was said that a possible ET origin of this phenomenon could not be completely ruled out. So this is what it was said, and please take it for at face value, because I do not know if this is true. But this is what I heard in some, not just one occasion, but in some occasion I heard this story. So I refer this, but again, this is something that I cannot confirm myself.
No, of course. And you work within government yourself. What sort of conversations can or do you have about the subject with your colleagues? Do they entertain the notion?
Well, you see, I work for the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which typically only deals with the terrestrial powers.
Okay.
I tend, yes, I'm joking, but I mean, I'm half percent joking, half percent serious in the sense that, of course, this is, I mean, my interest for the UFO slash ET subject has nothing to do with my work. Yes, with my colleague, I mean, they know my interest, and sometimes they like to hear to what I have to tell them, and but I again, as I said before concerning the Italian media, I also from their reaction, I can see that the whole subject is being taken and considered more and more seriously in Italy.
And that's wonderful to hear. Paolo, how did you now come to be involved with ICER as an organisation?
Well, First of all, I started my involvement within the ufological activities with the Centro Ufologico Nazionale. Centro Ufologico Nazionale, I am a member since 2008, and I am the responsible for the foreign contacts, of course, of the in the Centro Ufologico. And I was, I can say, I was not nominated by Roberto Pinotti, who is now the president of the not only of the Centro Ufologico but also of ICER. I was nominated by him and to be the Italian representative. I was accepted by the others, and that was in the beginning. In fact, I am one of the founders. My number is 7,
Okay.
and I said, "But can I add two zeros?" They said, "No, no, you are 7." Anyway, so this is how I became involved with ICER.
Now, why is it important to have an organisation like ICER on the world stage?
It is important because, first of all, the private research on the UFO phenomenon has never seen an international organization. So there were many organizations in Italy, in the UK, in the US, in France, in Spain, you name it. But there wasn't any truly international organization with to privately study the UFO phenomenon. So I think this is important because we know the UFO or UAP subject as a phenomenon, as you prefer, is indeed a truly worldwide phenomenon. So why not an international organization rooted in many countries of this planet to study? And also, it is the time, in my opinion, to have the research on the UFO subject, on the UFO phenomenon, uh, in private hands, because until now, and of course this is still going on, the research and all the informations on the UFO phenomenon, or UAP if you prefer, are monopoly of the military slash of the intelligence. And so, as long as we go on this way, we will never arrive anywhere, because each one will of course, continue to study privately on his own without sharing anything, keeping everything under heavy secrecy, and so on. So this is why there is a real need for a change of how can I say change of gear in this. In the research, in the private research of on the UFO phenomenon, and ICER wants to be exactly this.
I'm sure for many years, you and your colleagues at ICER have had an eye on the United States and the happenings over there, starting with To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science in 2017, and now further efforts by Luis Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, and others to bring the
Mhm.
conversation to the public. What have you learned from their attempts to move this conversation forward?
Well, the first thing I can say is that they are really sincere, in my opinion. I had the possibility to interact with Lou Elizondo quite extensively during the last San Marino Congress. And I can tell he is really a honest person, sincere guy, sincerely doing what he can for the cause, so to speak. And this term, the cause, is the one that he himself uses frequently. And I can say that but in any case, in my opinion, what is happening now in the US is due to the action of President Trump, not because he was interested in the subject and wanted disclosure to happen. No, no, not at all. But what he did is that he removed a lot of top officers in the army, in the military, and in the intelligence. So, if this is true, that in the military slash intelligence complex there have always been two factions, one pro disclosure and the other against disclosure, while the against the faction that was against disclosure has always been the majority, the vast majority, so that no disclosure could ever happen. So, if this was true, then what President Trump has done has actually sprung the door open for the, until now, minority which was in favor of disclosure, so that finally they could start acting. So, in my opinion, nowadays we have the duo of Lou Elizondo with Chris Mellon, who are the two frontmen of this, while we have a number of high-level officers or top-level officers, maybe we in service in the military slash intelligence community, who are those who, how can I say, may make this process of disclosure possible. And I say process because now it's almost 3 years that it's been going on, and we can see that there, I mean, judging by how things developed in starting from December 2017, we can see and we can understand that there is indeed, how can I say, there is indeed a plan for this, and it's not something that is happening just by chance. No, no. I mean, it's my opinion, and I think this can be, how can I say, not just my opinion, but how the way go, that I mean, there is a plan for disclosure, and they are for a gradual, of course, process of disclosure, and they are acting according to this plan. So very likely, I suppose that in a few months we will see something more, and I dare to foresee that maybe the next important event on this plan could be on the development of this plan could be the fact that, how can I say, that the U.S. government takes into consideration the possibility that these devices are actually ET made devices, or that the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the ETH, is actually being considered by the US government. So I think this could be, I mean, this is my, how can I say, a forecast.
Okay.
I dare to formulate, but I mean, in any case, what I want to say, I mean, what we are as the events at which we are assisting nowadays, they are not casual. I mean, they are not by hazard. They are not. They are enacted following a specific plan.
Sure, they are by design, I think,
Yes,
is
exactly.
definitely looking likely. Now, on October 8th, ICER released a press release to confirm that on the 13th of September, a small delegation with members of the CUN and basically presented documentation to a member of the San Marino, Minister of Culture for San Marino, sorry, Andrea Belluzzi, documentation pertaining to Project Titan. Now, you are looking essentially to use the country of San Marino to take this notion of UFOs to the UN, which should be a lofty change for the conversation. Why San Marino? Why San Marino as the vessel?
Yes, there's a very specific reason for this. So now I would like to make clear. Now let's stop talking of the US, and now let's start talking about this initiative, which is being called the Project Titan. Not to be confused with the Project Titan of Apple, which is a project meant to prepare to create, if I remember well, an autonomous drive vehicle. So that's another matter. So this Project Titan, or Progetto Titano in Italian, is formulated jointly by the Centro Ufologico Nazionale and the ICER to invite San Marino to to the San Marino government to propose the United Nations project for the establishment within the UN structure of an office. I mean, something small. I mean, not anything, nothing big, of an office tasked with the organization of a periodic world conference under the aegis of the United Nations on the state of the studies on the UFO phenomenon, to be held in the Republic of San Marino. So this is basically the project. I mean, this is basically what the Project Titan is for. And so, of course, why San Marino? There are some good reasons for this. San Marino, first of all, is not at all. I mean, San Marino is being. Wait, I must find the proper
That's okay.
English words. I'm sorry, but it's not my mother tongue, so I have to. I mean, San Marino is not stranger to the UFO or UAP phenomenon, because it has hosted 30 editions of the Congress of the World Symposium on UFOs and related phenomena. So it's not. I mean, it's 30 edition, which is not. Is quite a considerable number. San Marino has been the first state in Europe to devote a stamp, to issue a stamp on the UFO subject, and nowadays they have devoted two stamps to the UFO phenomenon. San Marino is a neutral state, and they are proud of their neutrality. Knowing that their neutrality makes the small republic an ideal place for meeting, for dialogue. So, what better of this? I mean, San Marino could really become the Geneva for the UFOs, actually. And I'm confident that the government of San Marino will appreciate the importance of this, because this, of course, this is going. I mean, is going something which, if they approve it, of course, they will have to do quite an effort to organize this. But I mean, this is something that from this they could greatly benefit, in terms of spreading the knowledge of the small republic in the world, in terms of tourism, in terms of international stand of the republic. I mean, because of course they could do. I mean, with this initiative, they would do an action which has a great merit for the whole for the whole world. Actually, I mean, it's not exaggerated to to tell this. So And this is why San Marino was also chosen because, of course, we have contact with the government. The Centro Ufologico Nazionale, of course, has contacts with the San Marino government. So, I mean, but the most important thing is that, I mean, San Marino is no strangers to the UFO, not at all. So this is and also, as I said before, he is very proud of its independency and neutrality. So I don't see a better place for this kind of event, for a world conference on the studies on the UFO phenomenon, on to be held in San Marino, to have everyone who is interested in studying the phenomenon, be that UN specialized agencies, be there specialized entities of governmental bodies of UN member states, be that international organizations like ICER, for instance, or private organizations like the MUFON or others, I mean, or CSU and so on. So, I mean, this is why we think that San Marino is the perfect place to become. I mean, and it's really could really become the Geneva of the UFO. I like very much to use this term, and I'm confident that will appreciate the importance of this proposal.
Absolutely. That makes sense that it's a nation that maybe doesn't have as much to lose in terms of reputation, not to mean that offensively, that Italy, a Germany, a United Kingdom would, bringing these conversations forward, who potentially would rather sit back and allow someone else to broach that subject. And it's a very brave thing to do. I would ask, if Project Titan was successful in securing an office within the UN for the study of UAP, would you be hoping for access to historic governmental data, or would you see it as a fresh start and a point to which move forward from?
Originally, what the project foresee is the creation of a small office within the United Nations structure, but this office is just tasked with the organization of this conference. So, I mean, it's not like in 1978 with the Grenada initiative. The Grenada Initiative was meant to create a full body for specifically the study of the UFO phenomenon. I mean, it was a proposal for something big, actually big. what the this project, this what this project foresee is a small structure. I mean, the smallest as possible, not to be not to be, how can I say, to use
Disruptive?
not destructive, not to use too much resources. I mean, of the UN budget,
Hmm.
but a small office meant to organize this world conference, and this world conference would be held within San Marino, within the territory of the republic. So, I mean, it's not an office that has to study anything. No, no. The office is in charge. Would should be in charge of this, of the organization of this conference, and the conference would be meant to assess the quality and the level of studies on the UFO phenomenon, and of course would also would also function as as a place of discussion, of exchange of ideas, of exchange of diffusion of knowledge previously owned by single states or single organization, and a platform to propose new ideas also for the study of the phenomenon, and last but not least, a way to instruct the public on the reality of the phenomenon and what is being done to study it properly. You see, so by the way, Andy, I take the opportunity to make a connection with 1978 Grenada Initiative. There is one thing which is sometimes needs to be properly spelled out, so to speak. I often heard saying that the Grenada Initiative just was aborted when there was the coup d'état, the how do you say in English, when the regime
Yeah,
of Sergei was overthrown by Bishop. So, and then the proposal of Grenada was remain just how can I say hanging there and could not be properly discussed and so on. No, this is not, repeat, not correct, because formally speaking, I mean, from a formal point of view, the Grenada proposal, I'm speaking of the Grenada proposal of 1978, because Grenada proposed, made another proposal the year before. In any case, what is more important is that the Grenada proposal of 1978 indeed made its complete how do you say in English, ITER, made, I mean, was formally completed. I mean, because the Grenada presented its proposal. The proposal was assigned by the UN Secretary General Office to be discussed in the Special Political Committee. The Special Political Committee met at least 3 times that year to discuss this item, and then the Special Political Committee, at the end of discussion, recommended that the UN General Assembly voted this proposal. The proposal then went to the General Assembly and was approved by consensus. So the formal, how can I say, I missed the English term.
process.
Yes, yes, right. The whole process of this proposal was completed. I mean, there was nothing left hanging, so to speak.
Sure.
So, what remained actually hanging is the spirit of the proposal, not the formal proposal itself. I mean, it is important because it's an important distinction to do. It's the original spirit of which led to this proposal, which is still nowadays hanging. And ideally, this project Titan wants to reconnect to the spirit of this, not to the formal request, because that's another story. But the spirit of it is to bring the subject, the phenomenon of UFO, to the attention of the United Nations. So this is something that ICER is one of the stated intentions of ICER, to bring the discussion on UFOs to the highest level of political debate.
That's a wonderful notion, and one we look forward to hopefully being seen through to its fullest potential. You've been very generous with your time, but I'd like just a few more minutes to go through just a couple of listener questions
My
that have been
pleasure.
sent in for you, Paolo. The first one is from Mike, and Mike wants to know: are there some significant players in this subject of whom the general public might not be aware of, that maybe want to remain anonymous but are working in the background?
Um, um, Concerning to what specifically?
So, with yourself, with your colleagues at ICER, is it all very much public facing, or are there individuals helping that don't want to be their participation to be known?
Concerning ICER, we are mostly ourselves. we don't have anyone working in the shadow. I mean, I mean, at least. But we prefer, in any case, we prefer to be as public as possible, because this is one of the stated. Also, this one, well, I would say, this is another of the ICER's stated intention to be as much as public as possible, to
And
bring. Mhm.
I'll just follow up then on Mike's behalf, because I think he may be also be getting at other individuals potentially within the Italian government or intelligence communities, like a Luis Elizondo, who are working for the betterment of this
Mhm.
subject.
But I can tell you, concerning the Italian side, nothing. I can tell you for sure that I have no contact myself with no one who can be in a position of helping in the shadow and so on. So the reply, as long as Italy is concerned, is no.
So at the moment, you would be our Luis Elizondo, Paulo, which is more than good enough for us. It looks like. Dan would like to know, what are some of the obstacles that could prevent Project Titan from succeeding?
One thing that I fear, the thing that I fear most is that the San Marino, the government of San Marino, could find that this is maybe something which is a bit too much for them. I mean, I mean, let's be clear. I'm just speculating. I hope, I really hope that they will appreciate and understand and appreciate the importance of this initiative for, of course, for the cause, which is something which is interesting for us, and for San Marino itself, which is something which interests to them as the government of the republic. So, how can I say? I think this is the very likely the most foreseeable problem which we could face. This is why the project states very clearly that ICER and the Centro Ufologico Nazionale will support the government of San Marino for anything which could be necessary, specifically on the ufological side, mm, and also on the procedural side in case. But what is most important, of course, is that they are properly helped in those matters that rely properly to the UFO phenomenon, because of course this is something very specialized that uh, I mean, which needs a specific support on this. So I mean, this is the only problem that I really can foresee, and I hope that, I mean, they, and of course we will be more than willing to. Again, I want to stress it once more. We are more than willing to support them as ICER joining forces with the Centro Ufologico Nazionale. So these two bodies, we will be more than happy to support them as in any way it may be necessary.
Do you have a plan B for Project Titan if the San Marino initiative falls through?
Mm, it's 50% yes, but I prefer not to say anything for the moment. I mean, um, we have a certain idea of what to do in case the reply of San Marino would be negative. But for the moment, I prefer to say nothing, because I mean, it's nothing. Just a basic idea, but nothing concrete.
Hopefully, nothing we have to use, and hopefully it goes through as planned.
I really hope so. I really hope so, because I would really like very much to see San Marino, as I told you before, become the Geneva of the UFO, a place where people of any specialist of any kind meet, discuss, and exchange information, exchange idea, present new initiatives, present new ideas also, and so on. So I mean that would be fantastic, and it would be a natural extension of the 30 years of symposium on UFO symposium that we have organized as the Centro Ufologico Nazionale under the because these symposia, which were organized for 30 edition, were always under the sponsorship of the San Marino government. They were organized by the Centro Ufologico, and they were under the sponsorship of the San Marino government. So you see, this is important, and I mean, you can understand this is I see it very well as a natural extension of this activity that we are doing since 3 decades. I mean.
And a nice question, Paolo, to finish up on from Dave. Do you think the international approach will improve the chances for a quicker disclosure timeline than perhaps may be the case if it was led by one nation, such as the United States?
Definitely so. I do agree with Dave. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we must, and this is one of the basic reason for ICER. It's as I said before, and I like to repeat it now. I mean, ICER is the first or international organization of this kind, and because we think that ICER is, I mean, a necessary step. I mean, not specifically ICER, but I mean, it is necessary to start bringing the discussion on the UFO subject, on the UFO phenomenon at the dimension of the international level. This is absolutely necessary because if each state, each nation goes on his own under the military intelligence leadership to study UFOs, of course, keeping everything they know under heavy secret and so on, we will never go anywhere. We will never have any chance of improving our knowledge and having actually a real disclosure.
Paolo, can you let the listeners and the viewers on YouTube who will be watching know how you and your colleagues can be found online? Where can they find your work?
Sorry, where they can?
So if you want to give out any websites or Twitter, any social media, so people can
Mhm.
go and look at the work of yourself or ICER.
Yes, of course. Well, I have a website which is mostly in Italy, in Italian, because and until now my UFO related activity has been within the national boundaries of Italy, so to speak, because most of my activity was of translating UFO related, I mean, documents relevant to the UFO research, translated into Italian and published into my website. So I have this website where I have published a lot of great number of translations, but they are translations into Italian. So I think that could not be of a great utility to English speaking persons. So, but I have Twitter account which is. Uh, I'm trying to internationalize it as much as possible nowadays with my ICER activity, and this is Paolo Guiz, Paolo Guiz 56. Paolo Guiz 56. This is the my Twitter account, and this is the one I'm using. I'm not using Facebook, at least at the moment, and so this is my main contact at the moment. I mean, it's the social media I use the most, for at least for the moment. Then I'm planning to put up a properly done Facebook page, but I mean, having to work.
Yes, I know the
the
feeling.
the time I have to devote myself to this is really rather limited. So for the moment, I only use Twitter.
And you can also find ICER's work at ICER.network, which is the
Yes,
ICER website
yes,
as well,
yes.
if anyone wants to go in and check
That's
that out.
that's more international. Yes, and exactly. ICER.network. This is the website. At the moment is not well. I mean, because we are still. I mean, we officially announced ourselves publicly in June. So no, sorry, in May, end of May. So it's just a few months that ICER exists. So there are still a good amount of things that needs to be fixed, to be properly done, and one of these is the website, which is not so how can I say not yet prepared as we would like, but of course it takes time and it takes effort, and but in any case, we are 28 now. We are 28 national representatives, all scattered all over the world, and each representative has a deputy. So we are more than 50, 56, 57 persons in this group, and but we have. I mean, I can tell you this: for the moment, we do not have those many resources, especially on of the financial kind, but we do have a lot of ideas, and we want to turn these ideas into realities. Okay, thanks very much, Andy.
It's been wonderful speaking with you, Paolo, and I wish you and your colleagues all the very best. And hopefully, I can get myself out to San Marino to visit on that next Congress.
Why not? Why not? Very good idea.
That is all for this week's show. Thank you very much for listening. Please remember to leave the podcast a review on your chosen platform. You can like, retweet, and subscribe. That would all be very much appreciated. The shows are being uploaded onto YouTube as we speak more and more. You can sign up at patreon.com/That UFO podcast to access the shows ad-free as well. Please get in touch on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, That UFO podcast. Of course, on Twitter, it's at UFO UAPAM. And again, folks, as always, keep looking up. You never know what you might see.
It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer, more like a hubcap designed by Chaucer, a little baroque and quite steampunk, like Alice was playing bass for the Parliament of Folk. The little fucker hovered right outside of my window, and when I shoved out the screen, he made it an issue. I don't think he expected me to see his ass, but I'd had some champagne and smoked a little grass. Meditative game of state full on meta. I can't imagine how it could have been any better. I got to the top of the stairs and there he was. Like, you awake? I was about to abduct you, cuz. I jumped back and nearly kissed myself, and I climbed out the window after the elf, and I woke up in my bed and there was something on my head and everything was weird and everything was red. And I called up my boys, they thought this was noise, they thought it was a dream, they thought it was my toys, they thought it was my problems, and they think I should seek therapy, and I don't know what to do because it doesn't really scare me. If you really want to know who I think I be, I think it's you and me and us and we and him and her and that and she and that thing over there and what's that, Jake? But if we're being serious, open your mind, consider your heart, consider time, consider your space, consider your lies, consider your life, consider your eyes.